Hi! This is my r/fantasy catch-up, I guess. I know I haven't really talked about it because this is a challenge on the fantasy subreddit. If you don't know, I'll link it down below. This is the third or fourth year that I'm taking part in it, and I have fully completed a bingo to make a Reading Champion 2 at this point with everything. It's not quite halfway through the year, so this challenge goes from April to April. Not quite halfway, but I got in my mind tonight when I got home that I wanted to do this, and I just realized my fan is on, so the audio probably sucked. Okay, the audio wasn't that terrible, but I had to figure out my camera again. Okay. Starting over. This is the r/fantasy subreddit bingo. It runs from April to April. We're not quite halfway yet, but I got in my mind today that I wanted to do a status update, see where I am with bingo, show you guys what my plan is for bingo for the rest of the year. And essentially, this is also kind of serving as a TBR, because this is as close to a TBR as I'm gonna get, because I don't really do TBRs because I'm such a mood reader. And this is kind of like, I'm hoping that I can get to these. And for the most part, almost everything that I have here are books that I already own. I do my best to try to fit what I already own to the bingo. So I'm not trying to do a hard mode for every single thing. I would love to do a hard mode, but I'm not trying to do hard mode for every single thing. I do try to get a blackout every single year. That's going to be a real hard one with one of the choices here, but we will go through everything and see where I stand. Oh, so wow, yeah, okay. I thought this wouldn't really show on camera, but if you see all this, I got some kind of skin flare-up, allergy, infection, I don't know. I am on the mend. I am on a lot of medication. I have referrals to a dermatologist, to an allergist. So got a lot going on recently. I had to take my nails off because I can't be getting my nails done with some kind of skin thing going on. So it's been quite a great couple of weeks, which means my reading is in the tank. But, you know, we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about what I'm reading and what my reading is like. We're talking about bingo. This is exciting stuff. I like planning. Even though I'm not a TBR girly, I like planning. So the first square that we're looking at is Knights and Paladins. I'm planning to read Alanna by Tamora Pierce. This is a classic middle grade fantasy by Tamora Pierce. I do not remember if I ever read any Tamora Pierce when I was younger. I don't think I did. So this is a great way to experience a classic. I do know that I have all my books laid out. The Devils is all the way over there, but I think The Devils by Joe Abercrombie could fit for hard mode. This is going to be hard mode according to recommendations on Reddit. Oh, if you want to try this, don't know what you can read, Reddit, the subreddit, there's so many posts about recommendations and all kinds of things. So I'll link the main hub down below where you can find like literally everything that you could hope for. And people are so fantastic in terms of doing recommendations, saying whether something is hard mode or not. I didn't explain, but every square has the regular prompt and then a hard mode prompt. And I believe like the hardest mode is to do a review on Reddit of everything that you read. I don't try to go for reviews on Reddit, but I do try to go to hard mode as often as I can. And like I said, I want to do a blackout. So first square, Knights and Paladins. The square is one of the protagonists is a paladin or knight, and hard mode is the character has an oath or promise to keep. For this, I am going to read Alanna by Tamora Pierce. The next square is Hidden Gem, a book with under 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. New releases and arcs from popular authors do not count. Follow the spirit of the square. Hard mode, published more than 5 years ago. Now, first caveat is that I started my planning in April when the bingo first dropped. So when I put these on my list, they did count for hard mode, they did count for Hidden Gem. A couple of them don't count for hard mode, but I can't guarantee that they will count for hard mode now. But if whatever I read, if it doesn't count for hard mode, I don't care. So first, I got a lot of stuff here. Okay, so first, 3 hard modes are 3 older books. The first is Spell of the Witch World by Andre Norton. I believe this was written in the 50s, 1972. Next, I have Lunar Activity by Elizabeth Moon. I believe that this is a collection of stories. Yes, this is a collection of stories by Elizabeth Moon. And another one by Andre Norton. This is Starguard. So these are all written decades ago, so they're all going to count for hard mode for me. And then not hard mode, but still hidden gems. First, Ladyhoppers by Therese Pelletier and Scott James Taylor. These are 2 very, very dear friends of mine. They co-wrote this book together. It is about a character who kind of like dimension hops and has to find her way home. It's sapphic. It's fantastic. I love them. Obviously, I am biased. I still have not read this. I'm sorry, Scott and Sarah, if you're watching this, still have not read it, but I'm going to. I'm going to. This is going to be the one for this. Even though it's not hard mode, I am reading this for this square. And then a couple of short story collections. 10 Planets by Yuri Herrera. He is a Mexican author. And Mothership, Tales from Afrofuturism and Beyond, edited by Bill Campbell and Edward Austin Hall. Those are all my options of what I own for this square for Hidden Gem. Our next square is published in the 80s. Read a book that was first published anytime between 1980 and 1989. Hard mode, it has to be by an author of color. This hard mode is hard and kind of like I knew, but it's also like discouraging all over again to see how hard it was to find author of color for hard mode for this. Literally all that comes to mind first, Octavia Butler. I guess also Samuel R. Delany, I think. That's all I can think of. I think Samuel R. Delany was writing that far back, but anyways. Octavia Butler, hard mode, Dawn. I started this about a month or two ago to do it for this. Was not feeling it at the time, so I put it down, so I'm going to come back to it at some point. What else? That's all I got for hard mode of what I own. And I'm not super interested in like Samuel R. Delany and anything, so if I want to do hard mode, it's going to be Octavia Butler. Non-hard mode, I have The Black Company by Glenn Cook. This is a classic dark military fantasy. And then I have two books from the 80s. This is Dangerous Games by Marta Randall. I own this solely because I saw it at the used bookstore and this cover was crazy. I'm sorry about my ring light. This cover is crazy. There's babies on the wall. There's babies on the wall. That's a cat lady. And there's babies on the wall. I don't know. That's literally the only reason I own this book. And then The Healer's War by Elizabeth Ann Scarborough. This is the story of a woman who is a war nurse. Yeah. So there we go. Racism is not great. Okay, next square I don't have any physical books for. This is high fashion. Read a book where clothing, fashion, or fiber arts are important to the plot. This can be a crafty main character, such as Torn by Rowena Miller, or a setting where fashion itself is explored like Mask of Mirrors. Hard mode, the main character makes clothes or fibers. I tried to read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim for this, and I DNF'd it because it was so YA that it was just dumb. I disliked the main character. I disliked when the love interest came in. It was just... disliked it. So there goes my hard mode. Let me see what notes I have for attempting this. Let's see. Okay, so I did try to get some recs. Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. This one I also tried. I think I read like 2 chapters at the bookstore of the book and I did not like the writing, so that's a no for me. Now, this is probably where I'm going to go with it. A lot of people kind of go back and forth on whether it's hard mode, but Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, which I've always wanted to read. So apparently, okay, here's a confession. Here's a confession. I've never watched Howl's Moving Castle. Don't tell anyone, okay? So apparently Sophie makes hats and then something about Howl's clothes has a big deal in the plot. So I think that's where I'm going to go with it. 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater. I think this is the second book in her like Regency Fairy romance stories. So I might go with that depending on if I'm in the mood for that. And The Conductors by Nicole Glover. This is a Black historical fiction, kind of fantasy-ish story taking place in kind of slavery era where a Black woman and her husband solve crimes by night. So I don't know. I think we're going between those last 3. Howl's Moving Castle, 10,000 Stitches, or The Conductors. None of which I own. So our next square is Down with the System. Read a book in which a main plot revolves around disrupting a system. Hard mode, not a governmental system. I had 2 books, physical books, that I planned for this that are hard mode. The first is The Golden Enclaves, which is the 3rd book in the Scholomance trilogy. I love the first 2 books. Still have not gotten to this one because I have this thing where if I really love a series, I find it very hard to finish it. I've been burned in the past. I also I don't want to close a chapter on the world sometimes, so I just have not read this yet, but this is, the system is the magic school education system here. And then I also have The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. This is a story, I don't know what time period this is taking place in, but it's a story where the Siberian wastelands are very dangerous to travel, and this one train, which is kind of like the Orient Express, travels across the wastelands, and there's stuff happening on the train. There's a lot of characters, and I guess the system is the system of the train, question mark. But despite having these two, what I'm counting for this is The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl book 4? 4? Yes, because there's 2 more after that, and I finished 6 books of Dungeon Crawler Carl. So The Gate of the Feral Gods, I believe, is the first real book where Carl is really disrupting the system of the crawl, which is not a governmental system. So I'm counting this for Down with the System, and I am counting this for hard mode. Now, I know you could argue that maybe it's not, you know, counting on this, but considering where the plot has gone, and considering now that, yeah, the plot is about the crawl, but it's also about Carl bucking the system and wanting to bring down the system. So I am leaning on the side of it works for the prompt. And if not, I still got, if you really want to argue with me, I got 2 books to read, okay? This was such a good idea like 2 hours ago. It's okay, I don't have to work tomorrow. I'm working from home tomorrow. Next, we have Impossible Places. Read a book set in a location that would break a physicist. The geometry, non-Euclidean. The volume, bigger on the inside. The directions, merely a suggestion. Hard mode. At least 50% of the book takes place within the impossible place. My first instinct was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. But for this, I did end up reading Sweep of the Heart by Ilona Andrews, which is book 5 in the Innkeeper series. This entire series takes place in this inn that is controlled by magic, and our main character is an innkeeper who is connected to the inn by that magic, and they're inns for aliens who come to Earth, and Earth is like a neutral zone. I really enjoy the series. I love Ilona Andrews, as you may know, and this counts because the entirety of the book takes place in the inn itself. Our next square is a book in parts, which is read a book that is separated into large sections within the main text. This can include things like acts, parts, days, years, and so on, but it has to be more than just chapter breaks. Hard mode is the book has 4 or more parts. I did have 2 options for this, but I moved those books to other places. So the first one I read, A Drop of Corruption, that's another square by Robert Jackson Bennett. That's gone to another square. The second thing I read, I think The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, that's in another square that you're going to find out. The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, that's in another square. I can suggest The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. The book's over there. I'm going to talk about it later, but I love that book, so you should read it for this one if you want to do it. And then, so because of this, I am going to attempt The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve Dew. October's coming. This may be my big spooky book of October. So this is my plan. And part of this, A Book in Parts, is one of those where it's like, I kind of just let it happen. So like, obviously there were 3 books already that I could have counted. I kind of just let it happen. I don't really like plan for this. I just kind of glanced through what people were recommending on Reddit, and I saw The Reformatory. I have it, so I figured why not. And also while I'm here, this is my aardvark copy of The Reformatory, which has this beautiful hardcover. Is she pretty? Next square, we have Gods and Pantheons. Read a book featuring divine beings. Hard mode. There are multiple pantheons involved. I did not do hard mode. I read The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I love this book so much. This is my favorite book of the year so far. Dungeon Crawler Carl is trying very hard to take that spot, but Raven Scholar is holding strong. So this features a pantheon of animalistic gods. That's about it. They're the only pantheon that exists in this world. So not hard mode, but it does count for the square, and I'm counting it. Next square we have is Last in a Series. Read the final entry in a series. Hard mode, the series is 4 or more books long. For hard mode for this, I do have 2 options that I am working on. I have a lot of series options that I'm working on, but they're all going to be duologies or trilogies. So for hard mode, I have 2 options. I am 2 books into both of these series. So the first, I just have this just to show because I don't own the next 2 books yet. Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I have read 2 books. These are 4 books long. I super want to finish the series, so that may happen soon. And then, Jesus, these are both heavy. This is Perhaps the Stars, which is book 4 in the Terra Ignota series by Ada Palmer. I really, really loved the first 2 books, which I read last year, and I am looking forward to finishing books 3 and 4. Book 3 is up here. So this is book 4, and it is massive. Like, literally, I think books 1 and 2 were like this big. So that is what I've got for finishing a series. The next square that they have is, and it's a square that they have every year. This is a book club or read along book. This is read a book that is or was officially a book club pick on r/fantasy. They do have multiple book clubs that run throughout the whole year. There's some great book clubs, but I'm just never there in time to take part in any of the discussions. So I don't tend, hard mode is take part in the discussion in the month that it's happening while it's happening. I don't tend to make time for that because, like I said, I'm very much a mood reader. So I don't tend to do hard mode for this. So for this, I am picking Blood in the Mist by Hope Merleys. This has been a book club discussion in the past. This is a pre-Tolkien fae fantasy novel, and it's been re-released in this really, really gorgeous cover series version. This is the Herald Classics version. I just think that's absolutely, it's so pretty. It's very pretty. So this is my pick. Another option that I have is the Trader Baru Cormorant. I do own that on audio on Libra FM, so maybe if I'm feeling that, I may read that. The next square, I just drank some water. The next square is Parent Protagonist. Read a book where a main character has a child to care for. The child does not have to be biologically related to the character. Hard mode, the child is also a major character in the story. So the first and main thing that everybody is thinking about is Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Long. I read Blood Over Bright Haven, right over here, and I really enjoyed it this year. So I thought Sword of Kaigan, obviously. But I also have The Art of Prophecy by Wesley Chu. This is a kung fu fantasy. A child has been prophesied to fulfill a great destiny, save the kingdom, etc. But because the child was prophesied to do that, the child has been very sheltered and is very soft. People pretend to fight the child and make him seem like he's this great fighting being, but he really sucks. We have the greatest grandmaster of magical arts, which is Taishi, an older woman, and then another straight-laced warrior and a chaotic assassin who are all taking on this child, and stuff happens. So we'll see how I feel about this. So yeah, Sword of Kaigan or The Art of Prophecy. Those are my options. Next square, we have Epistolary, which is the book must prominently feature any of the following: diary or journal entries, letters, messages, newspaper clippings, transcripts, etc. Hard mode, the entire book is told in epistolary format. I got two options for hard mode. I have Frankenstein, a classic. I have not read Frankenstein, I know, so this might be the one I pick. And then I also have The Moonday Letters by Emma Iturranta. This is a Finnish author. It is a sci-fi story told entirely in letters. So I got good options. I think I'm going with Frankenstein for October. It's finally time, okay? All right, now we're going on to the next square, which is published in 2025. This is also a square that they have every year. It's the hard mode that changes every year. So this is a book published for the first time in 2025. The hard mode this time is that it's also a debut novel, as in it's the author's first published novel. So I have two options for this that I own. First is Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill. This is a kind of, I want to say like folktale-ish fantasy. And I have The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This is a kind of soft, cozy fantasy. So these are my options. And I'm going to kind of speed through the rest of this now. It may not seem very satisfying, but I am starting to crash. Like this, I had a great idea 2 hours ago. 2 hours later, me is regretting it. So let's get through this. We're halfway through. Next square we've got is Author of Color. This is also a square that they do every year. The hard mode changes every year. This year, the hard mode is read a horror novel by an author of color. I got a bunch of Stephen Graham Jones to pick from. My unread Stephen Graham Jones. I have the last of the Jade Daniels trilogy. I Was a Teenage Slasher. I have the Buffalo Hunter, and I have The Only Good Indians. I think I'm probably going to go with The Angel of Indian Lake just to finish the trilogy because I'm feeling that. So we got Spooky October coming up, you know? I got some options. But yeah, that's a lot of Stephen Graham Jones. I gotta read this shit. I was gonna use this for the next square, but this can also fit for the last one. Horror by a person, author of color. This World Is Not Yours by Kemi Ashingiwa. This is a space horror, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. I am thinking of another one now that I can add to this. Where are you? Yes. The Scourge Between Stars by Ness Brown. This is a generation ship struggling to survive, and there are creatures that are maybe stalking the ship. It's pretty good. It was a lot of fun. Anyways, next square. We have small press or self-published. This is a square they have every year. It's the same every year. Read a book by a small press, not one of the big 5 publishing house or Bloomsbury, or self-published. If a formerly self-published book has been picked up by a publisher, it only counts if you read it before it was picked up. Hard mode. The book has under 100 ratings on Goodreads or written by a marginalized author. Oh, they changed the hard mode. Ooh. Okay. Or written by a marginalized. Okay, most of these still count. Okay, my small press is Neon Hemlock Publishing. They are great. They do a lot of novellas. They do a lot of speculative, queer, marginalized authors. So I have The Dead Withheld. I have The Cosmic Color. This is not going to count because it's a white author. But anyways, I have a lot of Neon Hemlock. So literally about 80-90% of my Neon Hemlock is going to count for this. So I always want to talk about Neon Hemlock when I get a chance, and here's my chance. Wow, that hard mode really threw me for a loop. Like, I had a whole plan and everything. Jeez. Biopunk. I only had one option for this. It's the Anna and Din mystery series. What is something Leviathan, The Tainted Cup, and A Drop of Corruption. A Drop of Corruption is counting for me this year. I read it this year. So, there's my Biopunk. So, okay, let's read the actual square. Read a book that focuses on biotechnology and or its consequences. Hard mode, there is no electricity-based technology. Hard mode, go for it. I love these books. These are so freaking good. This is in the running for like second, like until I read The Raven Scholar, this was like my favorite book of the year. So highly, highly, highly recommend these. Our next square is going to be Elves and or Dwarves. Read a book that features the classical fantasy archetypes of elves and or dwarves. They do not have to fit the classical tropes, but must be either named as elves and or dwarves or be easily identified as such. Hard mode, the main character is an elf or dwarf. I don't know that this counts for hard mode, but there is, because every one of the devils in this is a main character, I guess. Are they main characters if every character is a main character? Like, where do you draw the line? Anyways, one of them is an elf. She's named as an elf. That's what I've read. So I've read this for the square. And if I want to put this somewhere else and you know, I'm not going to use it for this square, I've got the option of the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. One of the main characters in this is an elf, and I believe that character does go through the entire trilogy. Hoping. So this is the first book. I did read the first book many, many years ago, but I will absolutely need a reread to finish the trilogy. Okay, we're next on to the LGBTQIA Protagonist square. I think this is a regular square. The hard mode changes every year. Read a book where main character is under the LGBTQIA plus umbrella. Hard mode, the character is marginalized on at least one additional axis, such as being a person of color, disabled, a member of an ethnic, religious, cultural minority in the story, etc. My pick for this that I've already read is book 3 in the Massa and Pelletier series, The Potency of Ungovernable Impulses. I love this series so much. You can read either one of these because the main character, Massa, will count for hard mode. She will count for marginalized on a, I guess, mental illness kind of axis. So Massa suffers from depression. It's not named as depression, but it's depression. This is where I'm going to talk to you and at you about The Spear Cuts Through Water again. You thought you escaped it, didn't you? No, I'm going to talk about this book for the rest of my goddamn life. I love it that much. This is 2 LGBTQIA main protagonists, and one of them does not have an arm. One of our main characters is disabled on that axis. So there you go. Read this book. I love it so much. I might read it again. I'm probably going to read it again. I should read it again. I really love it. Okay. The next square is 5 SFF short stories. For the square, you can read just 5 short stories, or for hard mode, you can read an entire collection or anthology. This is where things get a little ridiculous for me because, and there's like 2 that I didn't pull out, maybe 1. There's one I didn't pull out because it's massive and I'm just not going to read it this year. I also didn't pull out the Stephen King ones. So let's go through this. I've already mentioned 10 Planets by Yuri Herrera. He is a Mexican author. Mothership, Tales from Afrofuturism and Beyond. I've got New Adventures of Space Opera stories. I've got Tomorrow's Parties, Life in the Anthropocene. These are What is this? We're living in the Anthropocene, an era of dramatic and violent climate change featuring warming oceans, etc. What will life be like in a climate changed world? And I really dig this cover. I love this cover. I've got Speculative Los Angeles. I found this in my local Barnes & Noble. It is speculative stories taking place in and around Los Angeles. And I've got On the Origin of Species and Other Stories by Kim Bo-young, who is a well-regarded Korean sci-fi author, and this is translated from Korean. So I think I'm gonna go for On the Origin of Species because I've been very intrigued by this forever and I want to read it. And the inside of the cover is very pink. It makes me happy. Yes. So it's kind of like that Android picture that is on the front cover. That's the back of her head. That's the front, and that's the Android. So, yeah, I got a lot of options. I'm gonna go with this one, I think. We're in the home stretch. Let's get through this. Our next square is Stranger in a Strange Land. Read a book that deals with being a foreigner in a new culture. The character or characters, if they're a group, must be either visiting or moving in as a minority. Hard mode, the main character is an immigrant or refugee. I have two options for this. The Bruising of Kilwa by Nassim Jaminov. And I also have A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I think for this, I am leaning toward The Bruising of Kilwa, just because I'm more interested at the moment. And I have read two things by Arkady Martine right now, which is kind of like, kind of made me kind of meh on her. So we'll see. We'll see. Next, we have Recycle a Bingo Square. You can use a square from a previous year as long as it does not repeat one on the current card. As in, you can't have two book club squares. Hard mode, not very clever of us, but do the hard mode for the original square. So for this one, I picked a square from 2022 called No Ifs, Ands, or Buts. As far as I remember, it could not have connector words like if, but, and, the. So for this one, what I read first, Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang. And then I also read, which was my original plan, Hell Followed With Us. And I think hard mode for that was the title had to be 4 words or longer. So Hell Followed With Us counted, Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame counted. So 2 books for that. Cozy SFF. Pretty straightforward. Cozy is up to your preferences for what you find comforting, but the genre typically features relatable characters, low stakes, minimal conflict, and a happy ending. Hard mode, and I'm just realizing now that one of my books is not going to be hard mode. The author is new to you. So hard mode for me would be The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I'm pretty sure this is cozy. The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong, I believe, is cozy. And then I also have Bookshops and Bone Dust, the sequel to Legends and Lattes, but the author is not new to me, so this would not be hard mode. But I got options. I got cozies up the butt. I really say that. Let's move on. Generic title is the next square. Read a book that has one or more of the following words in the title: blood, bone, broken, court, dark, shadow, song, sword, or throne. Plural is allowed. Hard mode, the title contains more than one of the listed words or contains at least one word and a color, number, or animal, real or mythical. So I got 2 options here. This one is Song of the Six Realms. So I have song and I have a number. This is a Chinese-inspired fantasy. And then I have the Silver Blood Promise, so silver and blood. Standard fantasy came out last year. People have enjoyed it, so I got the 2 options depending on what part of the fantasy gradient I want to be on. Okay, next is a kind of a really new square for them. It's not a book, which is do something new besides reading a book. Watch a TV show, play a game, learn how to summon a demon. Okay, maybe not that last one. Spend time with fantasy, sci-fi, or horror in another format. Movies, video games, TTRPGs, board games, etc. all count. So quite a few I've already played quite a few board games that would count for this. I literally can't even think of one. The DC deck building game counts. Superheroes are speculative. So there's that. But for this, I am counting Sinners, the movie. Why am I doing Sinners, the movie? What else did I see? Mickey 7, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, K-pop Demon Hunters, and then I watched Invincible Season 1. How many of those happened after April, though? Whatever happened after April. Anyways, I've done this. So that is a fun square. I'm going to continue to do this. I don't do TV or movies as much as I used to, but board games for sure. I've completed the square. The last square, the hardest square for me, pirates. Read a book where characters engage in piracy. The obvious one could have been The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, but I had already read that when it came out. So, and I'm not going to reread it. We're allowed one reread for the entire bingo, but I'm not going to reread it. So the main option for this, Space Pirates, The Red Scholar's Wake by Aliette de Bodard, but I DNF that because I have figured out that I just bounce really hard off her writing. So I don't know what I'm going to do for this. I really don't. We'll see. We'll see where I end up at the end of the year. We'll see. Oh, hard mode is not a seafaring pirate. That's why I said Space Pirate. Okay. That's it. We did it. That is where I stand on my r/fantasy bingo. Let me know if you have any ideas for any of the squares. If you have pirates ideas, if you have hard mode pirate ideas, please hit me. I am like desperate here. I've gone through Reddit recommendations. Not a lot of them are really appealing to me, but I will take literally any recommendations at this point. I would love Space Pirates. I enjoy Space Pirates. I would love Space Pirates. I have only completed 8 squares. Here's my card. So I know I think we're 5 months into the bingo. April, May, June, July, August, September. Oh, September is halfway through. Wow. Yeah, I can't count. Anyways. Okay, we're halfway through. This is my card so far. Okay, I gotta get moving on this. I think what I need to do is I need to redo my TBR cart. It's just become overflow for my bookshelves now, but I am doing a big unhaul of a lot of my books, so I'm going to free up some space. I'm going to start putting all of my fantasy bingo stuff in the TBR cart so that when I am mood reading and trying to pick something, they're easily there for me to grab and pick, and it'll be knocking out some bingo while mood reading at the same time. I think that's how I'm going to approach it for the rest of the next 6 months. So hopefully we will have completed bingo by the end of the year. Blackout, which I always try to go for. Not a hard mode blackout, that's not happening, but blackout all the same. Let me know if you do bingo. Let me know if you didn't know about bingo and are interested. There's still 6 months. You don't have to do a blackout. You don't have to read 25 books. It's 25, right? You don't have to read 25 books, but it's just a lot of fun. I'm going to take a picture of my bed right now with everything. I had everything laid out like in a big 5x5, and I keep looking at it. It's a truly ridiculous amount of books. So I'm just going to close out the video and say thank you for watching. Thank you for indulging in my ridiculousness. And I will catch you next time. Bye.